And it's recording to the computer now.
Ooh.
Pretty sure. Ooh, there's 4 people. They're probably just like randomly open tabs. But anyway, 4 people. If you're out there, we're some kids talking about the philosophy of Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which, like, I guess spoilers be warned, but also it's a choose your own adventure, so, like, we'll get into that. All right, Bandersnatch, initial, what's it called?
Impression?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. I thought it was really good. It actually inspired my roommate Ola to like write a little like article about it that she wants to publish. I thought that the concept of like you like not it's like infinite choices but also you have no real choice was interesting. Like I guess like spoiler alert, like there's a lot of choices you can take, but it takes you back in loops if you don't make like the right choice. So basically all the choices you're making is you don't know it, but you're trying to get to the ending, like the true ending. Like it's not like in most choose your own adventures, I guess you like die and you start all the way over, but it's not always starting all the way over. It's starting again with your last like incorrect choice.
All right, so what does it mean to make a correct choice?
I guess so. In the film, there's like this guy named Stefan, and he's like coding the game, right? And the guy who writes the book, Bandersnatch, that he's basing it on, is like believed that there's like so many choices, you know, but there's only like one ending. So in the movie, when Stefan is at one of his like therapy sessions, he's talking about like, oh, like I coded the ending, and she asks if it's a happy one, and he's like, I think so. So, like the true ending is what he wants to happen, but also like what the creators of the movie like wants to happen. Yeah. So like you think you're in control of Stefan, but really like the makers of Black Mirror are like in control of you. Right. Like they give you the illusion of choice.
And it was covered, it like was brought up in the film, right? Because they were talking about like the illusion of choice in the world, and I was sitting there like, guys, get it? Because we only have 2 choices every 5 minutes. And then nobody was listening. So yeah. What does it mean to make a choice?
Means deciding to do one thing and not another.
Okay, well, yeah. But how, to what extent is it required that we as people make choices throughout our lives? What would happen if we were to just not choose?
I mean, well, in the thing, like, it gives you, like, you only have, like, 5 or 10 seconds to choose, and then it, like, picks for you. So I think, I was trying to say, like, you know, if you choose not, it depends. Like, if you were choosing, oh, am I gonna eat breakfast or not, like, there's only 2, you just don't eat like, you can't choose not to choose, but, like, if it was, like, am I gonna eat an apple or a banana with my breakfast, like, you can choose not to do either. But I mean, so I guess that's kind of, sometimes there's infinite choices and other times there's no choices.
Okay. So, what was I gonna ask? It was, would it be better if all your choices were made for you, or is it better if you have free will to make choices for yourself?
I don't know, because I think we all want, you know, the freedom to choose our own path, but like...
But is that the right choice?
Honestly, I don't know. It just depends. Some people believe that we have no choice at all. Like, not everything's predestined, and then other times you just choose whatever you want. But I don't know what would be better. I mean, if all your choices were done for you, that means you have little control over your life. But if you have total free will, it's like you gotta live with what you've done at the end of the day, and like you could make a lot of bad choices.
So you're saying that if your choices were determined by someone else, that you wouldn't have to live with your own decisions? Similar to how when you force Stefan to kill his father, like he doesn't have to live with.
Spoiler.
Well, you can. It doesn't have to be a spoiler.
Well, it's just I know that when we were watching this, our friend Karina had watched it before, and she said that she had tried not killing the dad, and there was no way around it. So that was one of the choices that was like made for you.
So we saw it as preordained.
Yeah.
To kill the father.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's Oedipus right there. Except he couldn't get with his mom because his mom was dead. Because of his dad. Ooh, Oedipus. Yeah. What else is there? There's like... Oh. Mirrors. Discuss.
Oh, so I haven't watched the series Black Mirror,
I haven't either.
I know in this movie, and from what I've heard, it's like they go through like a black mirror and they can change. So in Bandersnatch, one of the scenes is he goes through a mirror and it's going from 19-year-old Stefan to like 5-year-old Stefan, and he sees like he has like the opportunity to like, so I guess I should explain. So the catalyst, part of the backstory of Bandersnatch, is that Stefan resents his dad because he had a stuffed rabbit when he was a kid, and the dad and the mom would fight about it because the dad thought it was like babyish, and like girly. So he like hid the rabbit, and then Stefan didn't get on this train with his mom because he couldn't find his rabbit. So the mom got on this train and she ended up dying in a train crash. So like he feels like if he had had that rabbit, then what we think in the beginning is like maybe his mother's death would have been prevented. But we realize by the ending of the story what he wanted is, he says, maybe if I had the rabbit, then he believes that he should have died too.
Survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's deep. Am I right? So time travel. Discuss.
Oh, so I guess, like, him going through the mirror is kind of like time travel. So what they discuss, Colin is another character is like another video game programmer who's played by Will Poulter, who I like a lot. He says kind of like what flashbacks are is like you like remembering like a choice that you like could have made or like should have made. So I guess they time travel in that way. And like when it takes you back, like when you make a wrong choice, you go back to the screen. So it's like time travel in a way.
For us, it feels like time travel, but in reality, I think the way it works is you start up a new universe.
Yeah, a new universe.
With the same timeline of the choices that you made up until you choose differently.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we're killing Stefan billions of times? In an effort to have one Stefan get some better ending, possibly?
I mean, kind of. I think we're just... In a way. I mean, I guess we didn't see him. We only physically saw him die one time, and then it took us back. But then we also had to end up throwing Colin off the balcony because after we threw off Stefan. And Colin was gone for a while, and then he came back. But in another time when Karina played, he didn't come back at all.
Well, he came back once we entered a different timeline.
Yes.
That was prior to when that timeline's Colin had died. So is it worth it to kill a bunch of people, a bunch of copies of one person, so that one copy in one universe can get it right? Is that moral?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, is there really only one true person, or is there infinite you and me's? But like, do those you and I have like feeling? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I guess they'd be people, so like not really if you think about them as their own like separate people and not like different extensions of one person.
So you're saying that it's not moral to kill a bunch of Steffens so that one Steffen can like finish a video game?
I guess it would depend.
Because when you put it like that, it seems pretty conceited. Like, oh yeah.
Well, I guess the point wasn't for him to finish the video game. It was for him to die with his mom. That was what he really wanted.
Perhaps.
That was like his like on the surface, and especially at the beginning, his desire is to, you know, make a video game and like pay homage to this book. But really, like what he really wants deep down inside is to be dead.
So how is Bandersnatch a reflection of the angst that permeates post 9/11 society?
Oh wow, that's a deep one. I mean, I guess you see on the internet all the time, like, people saying they want to die, and people are, like, hella depressed lately. I'm so sorry. That's, like, so insensitive. I'm sorry, 3 people that are listening. That's, like, not cool. But, I mean, like, you see, like, people are just more, like, sad and hopeless.
Were people not sad before?
I'm sure they were sad before, but, I mean, I think our problems are more out there, like our country has become more divided, but also I think we have to remember that you and I were baby, like I was one.
Oh yeah, I was one
when 9/11
I was reportedly
happened.
sleeping
so we don't,
on the bottom of my mom's bed.
We can read about it, but we never lived in a
right. We just
pre
experienced
9/11 world.
The ripples.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that the angst has always been there, but somehow we have a different way of expressing it. Yeah. I was recently writing a paper for my philosophy class on how Vine, as a social media platform, is a reflection of angst in society and a representation of Kierkegaard's interpretation of the present age as written in The Two Ages. And how it's sort of good and bad because it provides, or it did provide, an outlet for catharsis from this angst that we have as a society, to like turn that into a form of comedy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because you watch
like
Vines,
coping.
right?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah. I'm allowed to swear on this, right? Can I say hell yeah?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Just keep it PG-13.
Okay. Yeah, but I also think, yeah, it's like some of those Vines are kind of like, sometimes they can be a little dark. So I think people have always dealt with hardship with humor because
right,
like,
they make fun of it
escape.
by like
yeah.
the guy who dropped his taco when he was on the skateboard, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it starts playing like sad jams over it. Yeah.
But I guess it's also kind of messed up. Like sometimes, like we find humor in sadness. Like we use humor as an escape for sadness, but also we find humor in suffering.
Is that wrong?
No, I mean it's not like, at least people are laughing about like someone like dropping their taco or like maybe like tripping a little bit. But like if you were to laugh at somebody like being seriously injured or
so
like,
AFV.
Yeah, like AFV is okay, but also those
AFV
people,
okay?
Well, yeah, because those people put that out there to be laughed at. They're saying, here is something funny, laugh at it.
The difference I see is that AFV is shot and seen, and it's like that is what happened. That is genuine. Whereas Vine is often constructed. It's created. Someone says, "Oh, I think this would be a funny Vine," and then they make it. So, like, talk about the difference between those two things.
Okay, so what, between like spontaneity and like being staged?
Yeah. What does it mean to stage catharsis?
This is so deep. I guess you just say, "Hey, this would be funny.
Yeah.
Help me do this." And then you get out your phone. You take it. So just me, like, what does it mean to like stage something that's like kind of like suffering, and then like,
why do we stage catharsis? How about that? As opposed
for
to
entertainment value.
Why is it entertaining?
Because people think it's funny. Because people think that other people's minor suffering is humorous.
So Bandersnatch is funny.
Oh no, I didn't think it was funny.
Because we're watching him suffer, right? So is that funny?
Yeah, but it's not like happy. It's not like he's like going through some major traumas. Like he's dealing with some stuff.
Right. So talk about the difference between stage catharsis and
so
this
like
situation that Stefan has found himself in.
So like what kind? Okay, let's like a specific Vine where it's like they're going through something. Like,
well, let's see. I'm only in this as an academic. I don't watch Vines for entertainment so much. But let's see.
There's like, stop, you could have made me drop my croissant.
Yeah,
so like
so that
him
dude,
dropping
like,
a croissant,
just
but
jump scared.
Yeah,
his
so
buddy.
all he's doing is dropping his croissant. Like,
well,
his
almost,
life isn't like
he almost dropped his
life
croissant.
is gonna be like dramatically altered by him. Like
Well,
he'll be sad for like 2 seconds about him like not having his croissant anymore. It's like the way he says it is funny. Like not
right.
the fact that he almost dropped his croissant, and so like go stop, I almost dropped my croissant. Yeah. So like whereas Stefan, like it's tough. Like you have to make him like kill his dad and chop him up, and like he goes to therapy and talks about his like deep-rooted issues. It's sad.
But then they whip out billy clubs and have an action scene. Talk about that.
Oh, because so in that scene they ask you like, so the therapist is talking to Stefan because he tells her like he thinks like his life is like being controlled by, the people. And part of the options is you tell him, you like give him a sign of like who's doing it. And so because that route came because we had chosen Netflix. So
Netflix
he's like someone named Netflix, and
from the future.
Yeah,
it takes
and
place
so
in
the therapist,
80s.
Dr. Haynes, is like, well, think about it, if someone was really controlling your life, like, wouldn't they make it more interesting?
What she's saying is you're boring.
Yeah, so she said he was boring. So basically, he's like, wouldn't there be more action? So the options are yeah or F yeah. And so we had picked F yeah, but I'm sure yeah, like, had been, I don't know.
It probably
may
been
or may
less,
not have been an action scene.
But it
yeah.
was like, whoa, change of pace here. Because they like, what about billy clubs? And it's the Matrix, and he jumps out a window, like it's John Wick. Yeah, so divergent timelines, time travel, choices, like. And you're putting me on Snapchat, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm on a podcast, y'all.
Fun. Tell him to look it up on YouTube when it's done. EgoSnitch on YouTube. That is the channel name. Except people listening, provided these three people are even listening, like might, but people listening to it on YouTube are going to be like, well, yeah, bud. Like, huh? Yeah. Do you have any questions? Like, is there anything that confused you in the movie, or things you wanted to discuss, or things you found
I wish
interesting
they
we
had
haven't
talked about
like
in the movie, like the author of the book Bandersnatch.
Okay, beyond the fact that he went crazy and killed his wife.
Yeah. And I also, like, thought it was interesting they introduced Pearl, Colin's daughter, in the future, like, writing the same game. But, like, after her destroying her computer, like, those were the only options you get once you get to her. Is, like, either one of the two of, like, just throwing tea over the computer or destroying the computer. But then it automatically takes you back to Stefan's timeline. So I think it's interesting. Like, before and after Stefan, they give you a little peek, but they don't tell you the whole story.
Right.
And I wonder why they do that. I think part of the reason they introduced Pearl is to, like, trick you.
Yeah. And the
Pearl, like, you think you're going to go into
timeline.
another loop or, like, have her maybe be able to, like, break the cycle. But, yeah.
And the Pearl Collins timeline only exists when Bandersnatch fails in the 80s, and she decides to reboot it in our time.
Yeah, because Stefan gets caught killing his father. So either it failed. Well, she's only introduced when he is caught murdering his dad.
Is that the only time?
Yeah. So, like, I guess, like, no matter what you do, like, in most of the time, like, he gets, so if you make an incorrect choice, you know, because it shows a commercial for the game Bandersnatch. So at first it's just like they rate it, oh, it's kind of lame, like 2.5 stars out of 5. And then eventually when you get closer to the ending, it's like, oh, 5 out of 5, like, great job. And then it goes into, like, this is a commercial for the game Bandersnatch. But then it was pulled off the shelves when it discovered the creator had killed his dad.
Would that actually happen, though? Like, once the game's published, it's published by a company, not necessarily the person, so why they'd pull it from shelves, I don't know. Right?
Yeah, cool, because they probably thought it was, like, messed up. I mean, we had seen the history of, like, the author of the book going mad and, like, killing his wife because of this whole infinite possibility thing.
Like,
so, like, I guess that would maybe be their reasoning for it.
But if, like, Masaru Sakurai, the creator of Super Smash Brothers, had, like, a mental break and did something crazy, I don't think the Super Smash Brothers would be pulled from shelves.
No, but also that had been,
like,
I'm assuming that he had been caught murdering his father, like, shortly after the game had come out.
That was right around when he was due to turn it in.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Were there any other bits that you have? While I try and think of more bits.
I thought it was interesting that they were trying to lead us down a route of, like, government control, and then it turned out to, like, not really be the case.
Well, it's our
like,
control.
Like, it turned out to be, like, more, like, psychological than, like, a government, like,
well, yeah, I suppose
thing.
There is the timeline in which...
It's more of, like, a higher being
his
than, like,
dad is a, like, employee of the government who's, like, helping fabricate Stefan's life, and, like, it's the Truman Show, basically.
But also, he comes to that because, Colin, he gets freaking high with Colin, and then he's like, yo, they hire people to be your family, and that kind of, like, puts the idea in his head.
Well,
I think that has something to do with it.
Puts the idea in our head.
Oh.
Because when he goes to the safe, and we watched both versions of this, you can either put in Pac, which is a reference to Colin's talking about Pac-Man,
it's like
power and
control.
Or
toy,
you can type in toy.
Which is the rabbit.
And if you type in toy, you get the rabbit, and you go down that timeline. If you type in Pac, then his dad walks in, and it turns out that his dad is, like, a government agent, right? But it doesn't put in his mind. It puts it in our mind. That's where Bandersnatch gets, like, goes from being, like, surface level deep, like, okay, choices are interesting, to, like, meta deep, where where we are being affected in our choices by the thing that's giving us an illusion of choice. Because we don't have complete choice over anything. If we did, we could just say, do whatever makes Stefan the happiest. But that we don't get that choice. We're left Frosted Flakes or Chew Bits. I don't remember. Right?
Sugar Puffs.
Okay. I didn't eat those, either of them, when I was a kid or now. Right? So I think that's where it like really hits a good nail, is playing with the illusion of choice while talking about the illusion of choice. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you make a choice in Bandersnatch, let's say, is it better to figure out which choice would be the most objectively good, like best choice in general, or is it better to just make a choice and stand by it?
It's better to just make a choice because, as we saw, like when Karina said they tried not to kill the dad, like we tried to avoid like chopping him up or like whatever, but you kind of have to, like you have to make the hard choices in order to finish. Like I remember eventually we ended up playing it for almost 2 hours, and eventually, like our friends Ola and Faith were just trying to make choices. Like, okay, we need to end this. Like this is how I think. This choice. Like, this choice will make this end.
Sure.
So I think after a while you're just doing, you're choosing what music he's going to listen to. Or like, it's like, maybe like this will help him not go crazy or whatever. But then it's just, after a while, it's like, how do this needs to come to some sort of conclusion.
Ooh.
How do I get to that conclusion?
So you sort of resolve to end it, right?
Yeah.
So the questions I was just asking reference the debate between intellectualism and voluntarism, which are two opposing schools of thoughts that have been sort of in opposition to one another since the turn of BCE to CE, essentially. Well, no, before that. Basically, the Greco-Hellenic school of thought is objectivism, which is like the ancient Greek philosophers who are like, there is a objectively like purpose to everything in the world, and that is their purpose. And then the Old Testament of the Judeo-Christian tradition is that of voluntarism, which you can most clearly see from what I've read in the Abraham and Isaac story, where like making a choice and the fact that you make a choice is the important part rather than worrying about what the right choice is, because it ends up that like Abraham gets Isaac back anyway, because he never even had to sacrifice him. He got to sacrifice a goat. Anyway, where was I going? So yeah, you basically made the voluntarist argument just now, which is that like making a choice is pretty much more important than making what may or may not be the correct choice. And as you discussed, trying to find the correct choice just led down paths that were ill-suited to finding an end, and finding an end that would be good for this character. But the thing is, this thing is fabricated. So it's really a, what's the word? What's the word?
For what?
Like the creators are really just egotistical.
Yeah. So
like
it's like they get off on like having control over you.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying, is that like through the power to give us the illusion of choice, they're sort of just getting off on their own egotism as the creators, and like, oh, I'm so smart making up this Bandersnatch story. Like, I'm so deep. I'm so smart. Right? I forgot what the end of that sentence was, but I think you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm right, radio, right? Go back up to, or stay there at 3 people if I'm right. See, I'm right. Yeah, I think the most interesting philosophical part of Bandersnatch is when you get into the meta philosophy of it and the fact that it is a fabricated set of choices talking about choices and giving the illusion of choice while discussing the illusion of choice in life. So what's the moral of the story?
The moral? I think...
Or the message we're supposed to get, or...
I think it was just supposed to make you think about choice. About if you have choice, if you don't have choice. I don't know. It's just deep. It was like, do your choices. Does anything you do really matter?
Does it?
I think it's trying to tell you, or at least in the way that the audience makes it work is like you're trying to reach a goal, but also that goal is set by the creators. So like your choices matter, but also they don't matter at the same time. They matter in the sense of like you're trying to pick what they want you to pick, but also they don't matter. And it's like whatever you do, eventually you will get to the end. Like you are going to have the ending that they want you to have. Right.
And it'd be really funny, I don't think this is the case, if there was no happy ending.
Well, it's just funny because Stefan thinks it's a happy ending. He's like, oh, does it have a happy... it's the end of the game, does it have a happy ending? And he says, I think so.
So that gets into subjectivism, sort of. Basically, the idea that every conception of good and bad, whether it's from art to morals to bananas, is up to the individual interpretation of each person that exists. So he thinks it's a happy ending. It's possible that I wouldn't. I haven't played the game because he never published it because he's not real. Yeah, fun stuff. Do you have anything more to add?
Nope.
Yo, boy in the corner, you got anything to add?
He hasn't seen it.
Yeah, but he's been listening. He can hear. He ain't deaf like me.
Davion,
like
do you
I'm
think
half
we have
deaf.
free will?
Sure.
Okay.
This is our friend Davion.
Yeah, so I've been hanging out with these dudes for a while now. Free will is a topic that's not necessarily like whether you have it or not. It's based on like what you can do in the moment. So there are a lot of things that like can like restrict your free will just because of like the scenario of whatnot. And whether you have it or not is totally depending on your abilities in the situation and what you're capable of. Because there's a lot of things that can stop you from being like having free will, and those could be physical, mental, or like emotional capabilities you have in the moment. So you can be like in a scenario where it's like someone's getting bullied or even like someone's getting stabbed and you can freeze up. Now that's an emotional response and that can limit your free will just because that's you. And that's like sort of a limitation that people do have on a daily basis. So free will is very subjective based on like the person themselves and not so much whether you can do something. It's more so like, I don't know how to put it, but it's based on your capabilities in the moment. And that's sort of like, oh, if I was there, I would do this. No, stop. It's pretty much just like what you can do in the moment and like how you naturally respond to things.
All right, folks, chew on that. This has been episode like 5, I think, of EgoSnitch Radio.
Oh, I'm Haylee, by the way.
Yeah, I'm still Kieran.
Add me on Snap at HeyBear418.
Or don't. It's your choice. You have free will. Yeah, bye.